I want to show you a few different examples of ways that you can expand your portrait images into a rectangle for making AVs. So I'm taking first the simplest example, which would be a portrait that's on a purely simple background, solid color. What you'd want to do is use the fill tool and use your eyedropper to pick the background color. Go to that underlying layer and fill it. If it's a perfect match like this and the color is consistent all the way through the image, then it'll be pretty seamless. But generally speaking, you're going to have some variance through the color of the color through the image. So I tend to make it a habit, even if it looks like it's a pretty good match, I'll go along and on the layer that has the image, I'll just kind of go along here and erase the edge of the original image, just so there is no hard line. Sometimes that line will show up down the road. So that's all you have to do with that. And I like, putting it in the center, but you don't have to, of course. Because we filled that bottom, you can move the image to the side or do whatever you want. The next example would be where the background is within a shade, and I have kind of come up with something that I like. I first fill the underlying layer with the color that's on the one side. So, sorry, my computer's a little laggy. So use the eyedropper and I pick the color from the left and I fill this layer. And this is what I'm talking about, where the color kind of is not exactly the same. So I go up to the original image and erase. I like to use a large eraser so it's not as obvious. Use a low opacity so you just kind of blend it in. The goal is to just kind of get rid of that line without making a real obvious change to the original image. The nice thing too is if I erase and I think, well, I kind of like this color better, I can always change that fill color on the bottom layer. So I can go to the fill tool again and change the eyedropper to the lighter blue. And fill it and go to a lighter color. You can see that it really isn't going to work because we've got too much of the dark going right up to her up here. But just showing that you can decide that a better color or a little different shade works better. You can always change it. I'm going to go back to the original shade. Now on this side we have a white, really. So what I do is I duplicate my underlying layer and then I change the fill color to the color that's on the other side. So I use my eyedropper and I pick the color from this side, which is much more of a white, and I fill this layer with white. The first thing I'm going to have to do is erase the white off of the blue side. So I get a big eraser and I just go and I erase it off. I have a really low opacity on my eraser, which is a good thing, but since I really want to make sure that I get this white off, I'm just going to go ahead and hit it at 100%. Get rid of it. There. Now I can go back up to the original image Drop the opacity back down. Lower my eraser size a bit and blend in on the white side, getting rid of that line between the original portrait size and the fill-in, or the underlying layer. There. Now I have her on a better palette. The last example will be where the background is one that I pretty much want to keep. I don't want to erase it. These examples are all assuming you're not tubing your model. You're just going to be working on a full level with a background. So in this case, I kind of like this background, and I don't want to try to erase it from her all the way around. I don't want to lose the look of the background on the edges, and just filling it isn't going to be enough. So I'm going to start by filling it just to get there, just to get in the ballpark. So I'm going to pick a predominant color from the background, and I'm going to fill the bottom layer. Then instead of going back and erasing the line, I'm going to use the clone tool, this brush right here. I have my opacity set at 100% for this. It can be a good idea to just go ahead and duplicate this layer so that if you clone over part of the model, you can erase it off and still have the model underneath. So I'm going to go ahead and duplicate it. Then I'm going to take this background and clone it over to the sides. And this is where you kind of have to use a little artistry. If you want to bring in some of the darker shades. Might want to lighten it here. Now I'm not going to use this as the only background, so it doesn't have to be perfect. I just need a good base to work off of. I need something that will be consistent as an undercoat, so that things that I put on top of it don't have a dramatic change. So if I put something over this, I don't want right here the new texture to have this odd change. So this allows it to be something where it's just going to be like a smooth palette to work off of, something kind of consistent. So like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect. If this is the background I wanted to use, then I could spend lots of time making it perfect. But I usually just plan to put something over it. There. And I can tinker with it. But at this point, at least now, I have a surface that is consistent all the way across, and I can start putting textures on top. So there's 3 examples, from a simple solid color background to a background that has some variegation to a patterned background.